Oh, alrighty, tighty, folks. He starts the stream and forgets to do a thing before he starts the stream. What's new? Let me grab a drink real quick. Put me a drink real quick. Put that over there. And my Tootsies is cold, so we're gonna grab a blanket. Because I like sitting in my bed. I don't like sitting at a desk in a chair. I don't like it. Hurts my back, it hurts my hips. Got the text message. Hey, I remembered. My hotkey. Did that even play for you guys? Hold on. I don't think that's playing for you guys. Oh. Steamed every time I open this. Every time. Of course, I'm down here in Arizona and like stuff's not right anymore. Things are weird. Auxiliary? I should be listening to. Oh. That's right. Okay. So we want that guy. Right? And then we want to hit this. Still not working. I guess the question is, are you guys getting the freaking music? Tell you what we'll do. I'm going to open my own stream and watch myself. I'm the only one. Turn this guy. Obviously. Okay. Sure. Fine. Stand by. Stand by. Technical difficulties. We are experiencing a technical difficulty. Why is... Oh my god. Windows. You were... So while I'm down here in Arizona, I've got this stupid... This incredibly poorly designed, rarely fucking works, Nakamichi fucking Bluetooth soundbar thing. Constantly, I'm just sitting here, disconnected, paired, disconnected, paired. Like, do your damn job. It's not that hard. So, A, I have no idea what you guys are listening to right now because I can't hear the feedback. Because I turned my computer off and back on again. And now, it doesn't see it as a device. It says it's connected. Okay? Look at that. That says it's connected. Yes, I know I could just window capture and fucking OBS, but don't worry about it. It says it's connected. So where the hell is my audio? This is why I like wires. Wires, when they fail, they're just broken. You replace them. Bluetooth, when it fails, who fucking knows what's wrong? Because there's no way of... I mean, I guess I could get a freaking... Well, I have Wireshark. I could open Wireshark.
That's it. Paired.
Okay, then why aren't you giving me my audio? Windows. Oh my jeez. Maybe I won't tell you guys a story. Because for whatever reason... No? You're not gonna work. But if I shut down Voicemeeter, it'd work. Hello? Everything Windows. Go to auxiliary. Just auxiliary. Do I have audio now? No. How about if I refresh the damn page? Maybe there's some weird hooking issue. Because Windows, I guess. That's a thing, right? Do I have audio now? I give up. All of that. And whatever. All I wanted to do was find out if the freaking soundboard is coming through. Damn it.
It's basically the old Zerpin flurp.
All of that. Okay. But yes, it is, and it's a bit loud, so I'll turn it down for you guys. Now I'm going to go mute myself. I'm actually just going to close the tab. And we can turn this guy up just a little bit. Alrighty tighty, folks. Welcome to what is no longer daily streams, but is something different because I don't have. But my buddy, the guy, the reason I'm down here in Arizona, working on cars and forklifts. I'm really excited for the forklift, you guys. I hate like repetition. Like, taking a shower is annoying to me because I've taken a shower at least once in my life. It's just boring, right? Doing laundry is annoying to me because I do it all the damn time. It's boring. I dislike repetition, like, so much. So, like, working on cars, like, I can do it, and I'm very, very good at it, and I do it correctly, and I do it well, and I'm not going to say I've never had a customer return with a complaint, because I'm sure it's happened before. I don't remember any off the top of my head, but I'm sure it's happened before. I have never had a customer return with a complaint that was a direct result of something that I failed to do, something I broke, something I did wrong, what have you. Every job I do that job correctly. Now, That's not to say I haven't had customers, because I can remember a few of these where you do a job, and say you replace the brake pads. Okay? You replace the brake pads. And I don't know, a week or so later, the customer comes back and most times they're nice, they're friendly, they're not like coming up into your face and oh, you broke my car and you need to pay for it. Like, most of the time when this happens, it's usually they're just like, they don't really know why or what, and the only thing that in their mind is, well, the last thing that was touched was this. So there's a new failure. I believe the new failure is directly related to touching the thing that was repaired previously. That's generally how that goes in most people's minds. They don't necessarily, like, their first thought isn't, oh, well, this asshole's breaking my car, you know. That's not generally the first thought. It happens sometimes. Luckily, I can't think of any instances that I've ever encountered that specific great example. Situation? I guess, situation. But yeah, I've had people where, like, you know, you replace front brakes and rotors, right? Or front pads and rotors. And then, like, a power steering pump line fails because it's an old car, right? I mostly work on older vehicles. When I say older here, I mean 10 years old and older, so 10 years and previous. Because most people with newer cars, they're taking them to dealerships, they're taking them, you know, warranty, they have their own mechanic, whatever the case may be. So most of the stuff I get my hands on is older stuff. So 10, 15, 20, 30-year-old vehicles. Stuff's gonna fail. Stuff's old, right? And you don't, like, power steering pressure line. I will preventatively replace power steering pressure line if I notice the outer shield is damaged, if it's dry rotted, if it's cracking, if it's little chunkies are falling off. We've got one, the 4Runner right now actually needs a power steering pressure line, but we have other jobs that are priority. We have other work on that vehicle even that is priority. So we'll deal with it if it shatters or when we get to the end of all the rest of the other stuff, right? But yeah, it's goes back to that thing I've said before, where most people have the thing in their head where it's a car. It's one piece of machinery. And those of you who know, you know, those of you who perhaps watch my channel or watch other channels like mine, those of you who work on cars yourselves, or you're just enthusiasts, even if you don't work on it, you just think they're cool machines, whatever. You know that it's not just one piece of machinery. It's dozens of pieces of machinery bolted together into a larger piece of machinery, similar to a PC, right? PC is not one thing. It's a motherboard and a video processor and a math unit and a storage device and a transfer device, and, like, you know, it's all these different things glued together into one bigger machine. So sometimes you have oddities of ignorance that occur. And obviously ignorance here is meaning lack of information, lack of knowledge. Ignorance is not stupid. You can I had something for this. Stand by. I can't remember off the top of my head. Something to the effect of, you can be stupid because of ignorance, but you can't be ignorant because of stupid? Something like that. Stupid is processing information incorrectly or doing something wrong, even given the correct knowledge, right? But ignorance, you don't have the knowledge in the first place. So you can make stupid decisions because you don't have the knowledge. But you can't have the lack of knowledge Don't worry about that. That's not going to be in the video. I'm not recording yet. Don't worry about it. It's fine. Something like that. It's one of those. I was going to say something. It's not one of those. I have another one of those. Like what would you call them? Adages, I guess. Idiom? Not an idiom. An idiom is a colloquial metaphor. I guess adage. Can't remember. There's another name. There's a Greek word for it. Axiom. Axiom. An axiom. All birds are penguins, but not all penguins are birds. Facts. Anyway, I'm going to hit the record button real quick. I'm going to tell you guys a funny story, and then I'll cut it even, because I'm probably going to have lots of ums and uhs and pauses and what have you, so I'll cut all that stuff out. Post it as a video, and if you want to watch the video, watch the video. If you want to watch the VOD, watch the VOD. If you want to come join me in the stream, come join me in the stream. I'm here for I don't know, maybe an hour or so. No idea how long I'm going to be here, actually. Could do a game stream. Do a video editing stream. I could record this and then edit it. I could do that. That's a thing I could do. Anyway, we're gonna hit record. I'm gonna do the intro again because for the video, obviously, right? But so hit record. Give it a pause second so I know what to cut out in the beginning. And then something like, oh, righty tighty, folks. Today, got a funny little story for you. Not one of my customers, luckily, but customer of the, not the shop owner, the business owner at the shop that I've been working in, doing all of his work trucks and personal vehicles and what have you. And the forklift. We'll get to the forklift. The forklift, yay. But I have a little story for you. The story goes like this. Guy pulls up in a Jeep Cherokee. He's got the top chopped off, and it's just the whole thing is rattle canned. Tells you something. The with the chopped off, obviously being a like an SUV, being like an SUV, you chop the top off. There's not a whole lot of rigidity in the frame by itself. The body of the automobile keeps the thing rigid. So he took and he put some roll cage in it, just some round tube, welded it together right above his head. Mounted the seat belt to it. Bam, done. Easy peasy. Cool. Not a problem. He comes in and he's got, in a box, a catalytic converter. I'm like, okay, well, it's Southern Arizona. There's no emissions requirements. You're not required to put a cat in the system. If you don't have one, why specifically, why are you putting one in? Most people like to remove cats. I don't. If the car came with it, I tend to try to... Emissions and safety equipment, if the car came with it, I try to tend to keep those things intact or replace them with something equivalent, right? My Civic has a catalytic converter, it has an O2 sensor, it has a muffler, etc., etc. So he's got a cat in a box. Wait, this guy's named Schrodinger, perhaps? It's the worst joke I've ever made, I think. Anyway, he's got a cat in a box with a cesium atom and a vial of poison. And I ask him, without trying to sound incredulous, I ask him as nicely as I can muster, like, any particular reason you're putting a cat back in it? It's an off-road vehicle, clearly. It's been rolled before, the body's all, squished up and everything. But it still runs and it drives. It has a transmission, some wheels, and that's all you need for an off-road vehicle, right? You just go out, have some fun, come back into town, drive your daily driver around. Not a thing. It's a thing. It's not an issue. So I asked this guy why in particular he's sticking a cat back in. And he tells me that he's done some research. Well, we'll let that statement soak in for a minute. He's done some research, which I'm all for. Do your research. Learn your things. But I have learned in my, 30-something years, feels like 900. In my 900 years on this planet with humans, these silly little monkey men scratching their butts and flinging poo at everybody they can. I have learned that most of the time when people say they've done research, they haven't actually done any research. They saw one forum post on Reddit and called themselves an expert. It takes no less than 10 agreeable sources to ensure, given the state of the internet these days, right? 10 agreeable sources to ensure that your information is possibly correct. Possibly correct. Not guaranteed correct. You can go out and you can find all kinds of sources that say things I'm not going to say in a stream or in a video. Come ask me in person, I'll tell you. But you can find things that all agree, and they're all by the same, 4 people with different pseudonyms or whatever. Whatever. And they're all still wrong information, or misinformation, or misleading information, or incorrect information, or incomplete information, or what have you. Anyway, he did some research. And the interwebs told him that he must have a catalytic converter installed, or the engine will not run correctly. Okay? Why exactly do you... How many O2 sensors do you have? Was my next question. I asked him, how many O2 sensors does the thing have? Because it's without the roof on it, I don't know like the Jeep grills well enough to call it. It looks like a 98, 99, 2000 body to me. And if I remembered right, those had one O2 sensor. The closed loop, narrow band, 4-pin O2 sensor that goes about on the manifold or just down from the manifold on the downpipe, or, somewhere near the engine prior to any emissions equipment. And he says there's just one O2 sensor. I'm like, you don't need a cat for the thing to run. So the complaint was that it runs like crap. That's the complaint. The complaint is that the engine runs like crap. And there's a check engine light. Couldn't get what the check engine light was, but the engine runs like crap. And the internet told him to make his engine not run like crap, put a cat on it. Sure, guy. So I get underneath with the guy that's going to be doing the job. He's my buddy's half brother, I guess. I don't know. He's going to be doing the job. I get underneath, and The O2 sensor's like 10 inches, maybe, from an open end of pipe. Also, the exhaust pipe is half crushed right at the downpipe flange, where the downpipe and the header meet. That flange, it's half crushed. Maybe because you're sucking fresh air into the exhaust pipe, and your O2 sensor is reading that you're far richer than you should be because there's excess oxygen. So it's pulling back the fuel, and now you're lean burning, which American engines really don't like. Most especially inline sixes that don't fuel the end cylinders very well. It's fuel injected, so it fuels them equally. But the fueling to the end cylinders, because there's a single throttle body, is not the same as the center two cylinders because of the pulses from the intake valves in the intake manifold, right? So inline engines, the longer the inline engine gets, the more cylinders you have, the more inlets you need to really have on the intake system because of those pulses. I have a 4-cylinder in my Honda Civic, and the throttle body sits by cylinder number 4 on the plenum, on the intake manifold. And because of that, cylinder number 1, which is only 3 cylinders away on the intake, doesn't fuel correctly. I have to pull 4% of fuel because I'm getting 4% less airflow at very specific harmonic regions, mind you. But cylinder number 1 gets tons of fuel because it gets no air based off of the average of all the other 3 cylinders when they're running normally. So what do you think's happening on an inline 6? Granted, the throttle body, if I remember right, on those is in the center of the intake manifold, but still, the outer cylinders are going to fuel different than the inner cylinders. And when your O2 sensor is getting fresh air, that's a lot of oxygen. Oxygen reacts with heated zirconium and platinum and all the rhodium and whatever the hell else is inside the Nernst cells, and it creates a voltage up to 1.1 volts based on oxygen content. So the more oxygen, the higher the voltage. So the voltage spikes because you're getting a fresh air pulse back through the open end of the pipe. And now you're not actually reading what your engine is doing. You're reading nothing. You're dangling the O2 sensor somewhere outside the exhaust system, and you're not getting a correct reading, so you can't fuel correctly based on what the engine's actually doing. And it runs like crap. Most likely scenario is because it's pulling fuel because it thinks it's rich, and pulling fuel on cylinders that are already sort of lean anyway, just because inline engines work that way. Like I was saying before, the fueling is not even across them. Even with fuel injection, the fueling is not even across them because the O2 sensor, single O2 sensor, is averaging all of the cylinders together. So all those cylinders are running a little bit different from each other, right? So you're pulling enough fuel that you're getting lean misfires, which can burn holes in pistons and cylinders and heads and valves, and it's not good stuff. And thus it runs like crap. I try to intimate this knowledge to this gentleman. I say, you don't really need a cat, you just need exhaust pipe. You need to move the O2 sensor closer to the engine, or extend the exhaust pipe so you're not sucking fresh air into the sensor sometimes. And then he tells me, no, I'm wrong. Obviously, I can't know anything about these engines because these engines in particular, this one exact engine from this one year or something, it must have a catalytic converter installed to run correctly. what does a catalytic converter do exactly? It's a catalyst. It has, again, platinum and cobalt, and I think there's some iridium in there, all on a zirconium substrate. Well, and generally, the good ones are on a zirconium substrate, ceramics. And they're bound to the metal in a honeycomb kind of pattern, and air passes through the honeycomb, and it catalyzes nitrous oxides to turn them into nitrogen gas and oxygen gas. Ideally. We're not going to get into the reality of it, but the ideal case is that you're turning nitrous oxides, which are, you know, the brown of LA, into nitrogen gas, which is 63% of our atmosphere, and oxygen gas, which is 22%, whatever, of our atmosphere. The stuff we need to bleed. Red. Right? Oxygen. Rust. That's all a cat does. It runs 200 to 300 degrees hotter than the rest of the exhaust system because of that, because it's catalyzing chemicals, right? It's a chemical reaction that is exothermic. And then it gases go out a little bit safer the other side of it. A lot of cars today, they have multiple catalytic converters to try to make those gases even safer, which I have thought about doing to the Civic, putting a pre-cat and a post-cat and putting in a second O2 sensor in between them, check cat health, or putting an O2 sensor after them, check cat health, I guess. But then there's a bunch of math and it's a lot of stuff. Not today, project. I'm trying to tell this guy that all he needs is a section of exhaust pipe, because what's happening is he's sucking fresh air back into the system during slow pulse events, right? Idle and low RPM. Specifically, right off idle, you get pulses that will suck big gulps of air back in. Ask me how I know. And it's effectively just an exhaust leak, and his O2 sensor isn't reading correctly because of it. Nope, I'm wrong. Obviously, I can't know that this engine in particular, it must have a catalytic converter to do. I never really got quite exactly what the cat's supposed to do for this engine that makes it run correctly, but the cat makes it run correctly. Absolutely. Sometimes explaining things to people is an exercise in futility. Sometimes explaining things to people will make you hated, despised. They get angry at you. Apparently, by the time the guy left, he wasn't really a big fan of mine. Not my job to be liked by everybody. It's my job is to try to educate people. Like, that is what I have taken it upon myself to do. Educate people. Which, funnily enough, I was just watching Heiss's latest video release, and he was talking about kind of almost exactly this type of situation, where I'm not here to say this guy is a moron and he has no business, blah blah blah, whatever mean things I could possibly think to say, and I can think of some mean things to say. I can. That's not the purpose of this here right now, right? I didn't. Whenever it became clear that he wasn't going to listen to anything that I had to say, that the information that I had was not of value to him, I walked away and I did something else. I wasn't going to continue trying. I wasn't going to continue interacting. I wasn't going to call him stupid or call him names, because that's not the grown-up thing to do. Grown-up thing to do is to let him be. Well, and that's kind of why we're in the situation in this country, on this planet that we're in today. It's because the grown-up thing to do is to walk away and let them be. I'm a firm believer in stupid should hurt. But, I guess, it is what it is. Takes effect in this situation. So, I walked away. I did something else. And then when he was gone, I asked some questions about the gentleman to the guy that was doing the job, because they deal with him on a fairly regular basis, I've gathered. And apparently, yeah, that's just exactly how he is. He comes in with some information he found that you can't tell him anything different, and he just wants this thing this way, and that's it. I will say, I have been that guy. I have been that guy. I know exactly what it's like. Having some piece of information in your head, and you're like, I've done hours and days and weeks and months of looking at this information and processing this information. And you're just like, anybody else tries to tell you, no, it doesn't work. And you just gotta do it yourself. You gotta break it yourself. That's what you have to do. You have to do it wrong and learn from your mistakes. At the end of the day, we're human. That's how we work. Cool. He looked to be about my age. The way I view the world, I kind of have this little expectation that if I have learned it by this point, most other people should have learned it by this point. That, like, sometimes you're not, even with the research, even with the knowledge, sometimes you're just not right. Sometimes you're wrong. Doesn't happen to me all that often, because mostly I don't tend to talk about things if I'm not 100% certain about them. If I don't know, I'll listen. I'll listen until I learn. That's something I learned early on, when I was fairly young, is if you don't absolutely guaranteed 100% know the information of the subject matter, listen to other people. Even if they're wrong, you can learn what they're wrong about and learn how not to be wrong about it. Right? So, I would expect a gentleman about my age to have learned that sometimes other people do know what they're talking about. But he knows more than I do, I guess. Perhaps I'm the wrong one. Perhaps a catalytic converter absolutely can affect the running of a single O2, an upstream only O2 control system on an engine. Perhaps that's the case. My suspicion is that it was a combination of inline engines are very scavenging hungry. They like they like scavenging really, really well. Just something to do with the physics of inline engines. You can see it on V engines if you just take and put like what are those things called? Screamers? I don't know. It's headers, but all they are is single tubes that come out of the cylinders and just kind of point at the air. On a stock engine, right? Not a race engine, not a built engine, right? But on an OEM engine that is completely stock with a stock cams, that's all designed to be put in a Chevy Silverado or a Jeep Wrangler or a Dodge Charger, or whatever, just a regular old street car. Okay. If you were to put straight tubes off of those and make them 12 inches long, I think it's going to run like crap, because the engine is not built to run with that airflow characteristic. It's not. So in the stock 4.0, which is an inline 6 with a single header and a single collector and downpipe, right? Single pipe. Scavenging is going to be a fairly substantially important mechanism for the engine to run correctly. I've had the exhaust fall off the Civic before, right at the collector, which is like right at the bottom of the engine. That's 30 inches of pipe down to the collector, maybe, from the cylinders, from the cylinder head, and it runs like crap. It don't run for crap. Even if the O2 sensor is up close to the head and it's not sucking in fresh air and messing with the O2 sensor readings, it still runs like crap because you don't have that scavenging. And if you guys want it, if somebody asks, if somebody says in the comments, or you know, get a new sub out of this video and they ask me in the comments, perhaps, I will probably, very likely, make a video kind of talking about scavenging and what it is, and trying to dispel some of the apparently still prevalent misconceptions and misinformation that exist about scavenging and back pressure. I feel like Mike Myers when I do that, trying to do Dr. Evil. Back pressure. Yeah. I have a feeling it was a combination of lack of scavenging, so, you know, you're going to have reduced power from it, and O2 sensor reading fresh air in the exhaust tract because of space between pulses, vacuum between pulses, sucking atmosphere back into the pipe, causing it to mix with the exhaust gases and not sending correct readings to the ECU to cause correct fueling in the engine to make the engine run correctly. And because what they did is they added the cat, they added 24 inches of pipe, and then they put a muffler on it. So now you've got 4 extra foot of pipe coming out of the engine. He's like, oh yeah, it runs better. Well, A, you're still running on your long-term fuel trims from not having an exhaust pipe, so you can't know that for sure. Not quite yet. It'll take a little bit. I was going to suggest he pull the battery and reset him, but I was like, nah, this guy knows what he's doing. He knows everything about his car. It's fine, we'll leave it. Because he really needs to reset the idle, reset the fuel trims, reset the, just all the, because there's, I don't know if that engine has, it's old enough. I don't think it had ignition trims. My Civic doesn't have ignition trims. Newer vehicles, I don't know when they started doing it. Newer vehicles have like ignition trims that they learn also, which is cool. I kind of want that. I guess it's auto tune or auto learn, something like that. Which is why now a lot of ECUs monitor the whether the battery has been disconnected in, like, they count the number of ignition cycles since it lost power, essentially. Which is it's one IC. Actually, I think it's not. It's contained on the processor IC, but I've dealt with ICs that do that. They're kind of cool. They're kind of nifty. This is really just an adder attached to a capacitor and a comparator? Really all it is? I don't know. I'm rambling now. Anyway, maybe time for a closing or something. So, I guess in closing for recording the video is sometimes you encounter people that they absolutely know what they're talking about, and you can't tell them anything else, even when you know they're wrong. And sometimes you know what you're talking about, but you're wrong. Maybe I'm wrong. Who knows? But if you found my story kind of funny, you could do that, the YouTube thing down there, down there just below, the like and subscribe thing. It's free for you, and it might get me to a point where I could make this my living, and I could give people information. I could teach people. Maybe I could do streams and do like teaching streams. And today's teaching stream is, back pressure 101. Haha, it's a joke. But we will see you guys in the next one. Thank you for joining us. Okay, recording ended. Now we're back to stream. There's nobody in my stream. Oh. I'm gonna message somebody real quick. Stand by. Oh, also. Do I have, hold on, yes, that thing. Jesus. Concurrent viewers. Two. I don't hear my mom's TV, which tells me she's probably got it running on her phone right now. Right? It'll be a minute before she sees that. Which I'm saying into the microphone like you guys can hear me before she hears me. Yeah, sometimes people are just, they're the best. And I think I'm learning from Heiss, actually. Which is interesting. I guess that's, what'd you call that? The human experience. Right? You interact with people, you learn from them. Kind of thinking about emailing them, actually. Letting them know that. But, yeah, because it's, 5 years ago. Someone was dumb. I just tell them they were dumb. Because honestly, if I'm being dumb, I expect people to tell me, bro, you're wrong. Trust me. You're being dumb. Like, tell me I'm being dumb. I may or may not listen to you in that moment. But I will then later go and do further research, or do research for the first time if I didn't do research at all. And I'll figure out, if I am in fact being dumb. Because I tried to, so that customer, he told me he did a bunch of research, and he looked at a bunch of things, in forums and what have you, and I was like, okay, maybe I'm the one that's being dumb. Maybe, for some reason, a catalytic converter, and it sends coded wireless messages to the engine computer automatically through subspace and 0-point energy conversion mechanism. I don't know. No clue what the hell. Like, I have no idea. I cannot. I can't figure out. Like, I've thought about it. I can't figure out any kind of mechanism that would make a catalytic converter make an engine run like crap, being there or not being there, aside from mechanical failures, right? The cat is clogged, the cat has broken, and the internal mechanism, the internal substrate has turned sideways, which clogged. But it's a different kind of clogged. And so when I think clogged, I think either carbon or oil fouled, where if you've got oil coming out of your exhaust system, your rings are bad, your valve stems are bad, and you get high amounts of carbon and or oil coming down into the system, the holes in catalytic converter honeycombs are freaking tiny. They're itty bitty. Like, I've tried to look through a cat before, and they're just like, they're that big. Right? They're as big as the gaps between your eyelashes when you do that squinty thing and you can see your eyelashes. They're itty bitty little holes. So it's like, that's what I think when I think clogged. When I think substrate broken, and it has, broken and turned and is blocking the airflow because the substrate is turned sideways, I think damaged or internally broken. Those are the words that go through my head, right? I differentiate between chemical blockage or blockage from material coming out of the engine, and then blockage because of internal mechanical failure. They're two separate. The effect is the same. You have no power because you can't get an engine as an air pump. You can't pump air out. If you can't pump air out, you can't pump air in. If you can't pump air in, well, you're not pumping air. So your air pump isn't working. That's the end result. That's from a consumer, from an end user, from a customer standpoint. It doesn't matter if you want to call it different things or not. They're the same thing. Stuff ain't working. Make it work, please. So, but me, I tend to use distinct nomenclature for different types of failures. And I tend to try to educate people like that. Like everybody, they're like, oh, well, this bolt's stripped. Is it stripped or is it rounded? Are the threads missing or is the head damaged where you put the wrench? Those are two distinct, separate types of failures. Stripped is when the threads are missing. Right? You can get something stripped because of cross-threading. Cross-threading is a different type of failure. Right? And then rounding of a head, we'll just call it standard hex head bolts right now. It's we could talk for days on other types of fasteners, but standard just hex head bolts on pretty much every car. Except Germans. Germans like to use triple squares. Fuck your triple squares. Get the fuck out of here with your triple squares. Stupid triple squares. Looks like a Torx, but it ain't a Torx, because it's a triple square. I tell you what. You want to talk about redneck engineers? Germans. The problem with German engineering on automobiles is that not only are they rednecks, they're educated rednecks. So they know what they're doing, but they still redneck it anyway. That's stupid. Okay. American engineers have a lack of knowledge. You can look at their engineering characteristics and designs and you can be like, well, they clearly didn't know that all you had to do was this over here, and this over here, and bam, now it's easy and it's simple and you can work on it. And it didn't even take you that much longer in manufacturing, in design, in like anything. Like you can look at American vehicle, American OEMs. Like, oh yeah, they just didn't know what they were doing. You look at German OEMs, and you're like, no, they knew what they were doing, and they did it wrong intentionally. You look at Japanese OEMs, and it's like, wow, these guys, they put a lot of time and effort into this, but what is this over? Oh, that's cool. Why would you? Oh, I see what you did there. What is that, Eddie Murphy meme? I don't remember. The somebody meme. But yeah, so German engineering looks stupid, but turns out to not be stupid in the end. I said Japanese, right? I think I said Japanese. Japanese engineering. German engineering is stupid on purpose. And American engineering is stupid because them no knows. Them's no knows nothings. Okay? I think American engineering is so bad, less because the engineers don't know. I know I literally just said that. But less because the engineers don't know what they're doing at all. And more because... So in America, when you hit 40 hours on the clock, you get off the clock and you leave. I'm exactly the same way. I'm not saying that's a problem. That's not the problem. But But in America, when we hit 40 hours, we're gone. Or you're paying me a bunch more money because you're eating into my me time. Don't eat into my me time, man. In Japan, I don't know what it is in Europe or specifically in Germany. I don't know what the culture, the work culture is. But, grabbed it and then I put it back. But in Japan, it is not unusual for people to pretend to sleep at their desks trying to seek promotion. Because if you fall asleep, apparently you're working harder or something. I get it, but I don't. I get it, but I don't. And the work culture in Japan is murder yourself to pay your bills. Sounds a lot like 1890s America, actually. But it wasn't murder yourself to pay your bills, it was murder your employees because we can get more. All hail the company. It was that. Then early 1900s, 19 teens, 1920s, labor unions and the mafia and all kinds of other stuff happened. And things and stuff. Stuff and things. All kinds of stuff. Stuff I don't even know stuff. But it happened. And it was there. And we are today what we are, where we are, because of things that happened then. So, learn your history, folks. Good for you. As much as I hate American history. Because you know what most of American history is? Abraham Lincoln farted on a Friday. It was a bit juicy. He had to change his pants. It was kind of muggy that morning in April. I don't care about any of that. I don't care what day of the week. I don't care what month. All I care about is over this 5-year period, there was this that happened. And then, some of the intricacies are this guy murdered this guy slept with this guy's wife, this guy decided to eat a goat, whatever. And that kind of led to this big long slide of a bunch of other people doing a bunch of other things that ended up culminating in this. That's all I need. I don't care when George Washington ate an apple tree. Right? I don't care that I don't know, I was going to say something funny about John Adams. I don't care when James Garfield designed the FCC and told them to have free reign over everything transmissions. Wired, wireless, paper, non-paper, electronic. He told them to be Nazis. Before the Nazis really were a thing. Well, before the world knew about Nazis, I guess. Nazis have been a thing for a long, long time. But before the world had a problem with Nazis. Pretty sure it was James Garfield that created the FCC. I could be wrong. Correct me. Somebody correct me. Tell me I'm wrong. Meow. Meow. Well, come here. Come here. No? Okay. You don't want to come here, so... It can't give you pets if you won't come here. Of course, the second I stand up, they all run, so... like... cockroaches. Oh. Anyway, what the hell was I talking? I was talking about something. Talking about something interesting. I don't even know. It was interesting. No, it isn't, apparently. Talking about labor unions and such. Oh, that's right. Long version of different engineering techniques and characteristics. American OEMs are so bad because of the 40-hour work week. Because we value our personal time, our private time, our off time far more highly than we value our work time. Which is why Americans are so okay making what they make for income. Granted, economy and all kinds of other things that, again, I could go into for hours and hours. That if I were to go in and charge $50 an hour for flipping burgers, which is what California is trying to do, what's going to happen? Well, that business doesn't make the money. Pay me $50 an hour. So there's two options. Don't pay me $50 an hour. Get rid of me. Pay somebody less to do the same job. Or charge their end customer, their end user, their consumer, for my $50 an hour. Okay. I charge $50 an hour to not even flip burger. You don't flip burgers anymore. You stick them on a rack and they come out the other side. Literally, you're going like that. That doesn't take $50 an hour to do that. But yeah, if I'm charging $50 an hour to do that, and somebody agrees to pay me that, how much is that burger going to cost? Well, how many burgers can you roll through in an hour? I don't know. Depends on how fast the oven goes. Probably 100? Well, let's call it 120. 120 for the easy math, right? So that's 2 a minute. Okay, so and let's call it let's go easy math again. $60 an hour. $60 an hour. And you can do 2 a minute. Okay, well, there's 60 minutes in an hour, so that's $1 a minute. You can do 2 a minute. That's 50 cents a patty. You're charging 50 cents a patty to run them through the oven. To just put them on the oven and then pick them up again. So to put it down and pick it up. Well, pick it up, put it down, pick it up, put it down, put it in a bag. Right? Okay, well, 50 cents a patty. To offset that, they're going to have to charge at least 60 cents a patty. Right? Okay, well, that's just the guy that puts the burger in the oven. If that's all he's doing, that's all he has time to do, because you're doing enough business, Let's assume for a moment that you're running at 100% throughput. So, that's 60 cents a patty. Well, then you have two guys that run the line to make it efficient, right? Because one guy could build these burgers, right? But you have two so that it can come out of the oven and it gets bun, cheese, lettuce. Then the next guy does sauces, pickles. Right? They stand side by side. Bam, 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 bam. Wraps it up, goes out the door. Bam, 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 bam. Wraps it up, goes out the door. Well, if they're charging the same $60 an hour, they can do up to the maximum of what's coming out of the oven, so 120 an hour. Let's just say everybody's working at full efficiency. Okay, so that's another 60 cents. So that's $1.20 on that burger just to build it. Okay. Well, you also have to have someone run the register. How do you calculate how many patties they can work through in an hour? Well, it's how many customers they serve. Okay, so let's assume this whole building is running on all the same math, which doesn't happen in the real world. But let's assume they're all running on the same math and everybody's getting paid identically, which again doesn't happen in the real world. So now, that's another 60 cents for the guy that runs the register. He deals with the customers. It's $1.80. Okay. Well, because all of those people have things to do, floors get dirty, tables get dirty. We got to clean those things. Now we got to pay somebody to clean those things. Okay, well, again, we're just going to stick with same math across the board. That's $1.80, $2.40. $2.40 a burger. Okay? Because you have to make money on the work that each person is outputting. That's not the way to do it. That's not how you would do it in the real world. But that's what happens. That's really what happens. So you can see, by the time you get done paying the electric bill, paying the water bill, paying the mortgage for the building, or paying off building the building, or paying rent on the building, after you get done paying for the chemicals to clean the floors, after you get done paying for the gas to turn the oven on, after you get done paying for the electricity to run the freezer, all of this, a $14 burger. That's an expensive-ass burger. It better be delicious. Well, it's not, because it's designed to be fast. Fast isn't good. Right? What's that triangle? You have fast, good, and cheap. Right? That dot can only be in the one spot. You can have it right in the middle. It's not fast, it's not all that good, and it's not all that cheap. If you make it cheap, put it in the corner. It ain't good and it ain't fast. If you want it fast, it ain't good and it ain't cheap. If you want it good, it ain't fast and it ain't cheap. You can do some little, mixer rate in there where you get like, if it's good and fast, it definitely ain't cheap. If it's fast and cheap, it definitely ain't good. And if it's good and cheap, it definitely ain't fast. Right? That whole thing. Which you can apply to, there's a whole, I saw a list of those one time, where there was like a whole bunch of different things. They all boiled down to fast, good, and cheap, but most of them were jokes. But you can do the same thing just about anywhere, right? So, that doesn't work. Economy. Going back to the 40-hour work week thing that I was talking about a minute ago. We were talking about, the value of one's time. Kind of went into an economic discussion as opposed to the value of one's time discussion. The value of one's time in America is far greater than the value of one's time some other places. Private time, personal time. So, what we end up getting is a lot less work done on the same projects before deadlines, before the customer's like, hey, where's my stuff? You need to give it to me. So in America, everybody, I don't even know who started it. I should look that up one day. So at some point, somebody started we're going to change body styles and engine characteristics and blah, 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 blah every 4 years. For whatever reason. Someone decided that was a good idea. What you end up getting is in those places where they spend a lot of time at work, and they're expected to spend a lot of time at work, a lot of work gets done. And the things that come out are pretty good. And then in places where the expectation is you put in enough to pay your bills, and then you go home, not as much work gets done. They're not as good. But then you run into this whole thing where, well, then how hard is it to look at the good things that have already existed and just incorporate them, because that work has already been done? At what point do you say that the argument is solely reliant on we just don't put the same hours into it that other people do, and that's why it's less good? I don't think that argument's necessarily really all that valid. But there is something to be said for it. 10%? 15% maybe is the reason American vehicles are so poorly designed? I don't know. Maybe I'm just crazy. Maybe I'm just cynical. Maybe I'm just an old fogey. My grandfather's hair didn't go gray until he was in his 60s or 70s. Maybe I'm a lot older than I look. I don't know. I also don't know what other reason I would have to continue streaming. I said my thing, and I think I'm gonna go edit that video real quick and get it posted today. And maybe start looking at finishing up the Forerunner editing that I still have to do, because I still haven't done that. Maybe that's what I should do. I've noticed that since I'm not streaming every day, I'm also not keeping on top of the video editing, the YouTube stuff, like my requirements for just running a damn channel. So maybe, yeah, maybe I need to stream video recording every couple of days. I don't know. I guess time will tell. Or maybe... What? OBS. OBS. Is there a setting for that? Is there... Oh, that's just settings for the... OBS. I'm going to take you guys on a trip with me. Even though you can't see what I'm doing. I want to see if there's like... For the soundboard, is there a setting that I can turn off that is enabled that will allow me to spam the soundboard? There's a soundboard restart hotkey that I don't have enabled. I don't know what that does. Yep, soundboard, all of those things. Stream. Why is that not in there? It's fine, it's fine. Soundboard. Try this. Okay, so what I did is I added a hotkey to play and pause. I don't need pause. I actually don't need pause. So, play. So now, if I play a soundboard thing, like
It's
that
basically
guy,
the old Zerpin
the old
Flurp.
Zerp and Flurp right there. And then I do that. Then I do that. Then I do that. Then I do that. No. It still doesn't let me do it.
What the hell, damn guy?
Yeah. Exactly that. What the hell, damn guy? Well, I'm going to have to look into that a little bit. Which I'm going to do right now. But I'm going to end the stream to do it. Because no point in you guys just staring at my face while I'm staring at the monitor. Nothing happening. So, we're going to end the stream. And I'm going to go edit a video. I might start a new stream up for the editing video part. I don't know. Went all Jim Gaffigan right there. Yeah, I don't know if I will or not. I might not. Because it does take a lot longer to edit video while streaming, simply because the part of the video card that is doing the processing to edit the video is also the same part of the video card that you use to stream. Because you're processing video. So, we're going to end the stream here. I may or may not start another one for video editing. If I do, it'll be specifically so I can put it in the video editing playlist, etc., etc. But Anyway, we will see you guys later. Hope you have a good whatever, night, day, orange, purple, scream, yell, bath, camera, light,